Hi, welcome. I'm Melissa Virtue, and I have been guided to share some fairy tales. If you saw Snow White or listened to Snow White, um, the fairy tales to me are the ones told by the folk whom the fairies told the tales to, the folk of the land where the fairy tales come from. So, depending on what part of the world you're in and where you hear the tale of the fairies, that folk, those people, have received them and passed them down like bardic tradition from the Fae. And again, I don't mean tiny little flower fairies. I mean the big Fae, the ones that are taller than us, known as the shining ones, the other people, the good folk. They go by many, many different names depending on what part of the world you're in. They are the star beings that brought many, not only magical traditions, instruments, technological instruments, but also knowledge of healing and herbs and so many things. There's a whole many years I could spend on that. But anyway, so I'm continuing this fairy tale. As I said, I would go into Snow White and Rose Red. So again, I am taking this from the traditional Grimm's fairy tales because they went around gathering tales of the Fae from the folk that lived on the land. And I have been guided to share. I will share it in phrases and in codes and allow you, of course, you will meet this fairy tale with what it's rising in you and what you need to receive from it. So it'll share its magic, medicine, and weavings with you and what you need at this moment. And in honor of Rose Red, I'm wearing red today. So let's begin. This is part one. I'll just share the beginning of this for you to ponder, ingest, let it percolate. I would love to hear from you in the comments or emailing me at awakening@melissavirtue.com with what comes forward for you, what you glean from it, what oracular guidance arrives from it. Because you're your own oracle, right? So here we go. There once was a widow, and I'm paraphrasing from the Grimm's fairy tales. There once was a widow who lived in a cottage in the forest. In front of her cottage grew 2 rose bushes, a red one and a white one. She had 2 young daughters who were maidens named Snow White and Rose Red. Now, Rose Red loved running in the forests. She loved running among the forest and deep on the trails and finding her own trails. Snow White loved helping her mother embroider, sew, cook, clean. These 2 sisters loved each other dearly and never wanted to part. And they always held hands when they went on adventures in the forest together, saying that they would never part. They would always live together. And the mother said to them, "You will share, the other will share what the other has." Now, when they held hands and went into the forests, the rabbits would eat out of their hands. The hare, I should say, would eat out of their hands. A roe would graze beside them, and a stag would follow them. There's where I will pause, part 1. Let's go into Snow White. So her name, as you saw in part 2 of Snow White, you can listen to that if you like to feel into the meaning of her name and what that might mean for you. Rose Red. So we go into the rose bushes right in front, a white rose bush and a red rose bush. Okay, so rose red, the red rose. I could go so many places with this, but for now I will say this very first layer, I will say rose lineage, passion, inner fire. This could be seen as the feminine being red, and the white could be seen as masculine. The white could also be seen as feminine. So all the different perspectives, right? So Rose Red loves to run in the forest, and she loves to discover and go into those elemental places. This is how I see it. And I invite you to listen, receive, and resonate with what does and leave the rest, but also find your own path in this. Find what else is calling, what else you see, hear, feel, know, smell, and taste with what I'm sharing. So she loves wandering the paths, discovering. She's passionate. She follows the threads in the forest, listens to the elementals, discovers them. Snow White, so I see this as perhaps the other world. Forests can be otherworldly. They're dimensional spaces. They're of the earth realm, and the trees and the roots and the plants have their roots in the earth, and they grow towards the celestial realms. So they're the bridges, the gateways, the portals to the other realms. And so here's Rose Red moving through those other realms with her passion, her fire, following the threads of the rose lineage, or just the threads of her desires. Because to me, we have rose-petaled heart. You can see that in any color that you choose. I see it as a rose-petaled honeycombed heart. So she's following these wild inclinations, these wild desires, her wild nature. Where Snow White is in the mundane, if you will, but bringing magic, the rose, the white, everything that I said about Snow White's name in part 2 of Snow White, bringing that color of rose, that color of the heart, that color of the inner waters, that color of the rainbow and all colors, that color of the yin yang, to the home, the mundane, but yet the structure. The cottage is structure. It's the temple, the home, sacred space and temple. And so she's bringing her skills and her gifts to the home, the hearth, the magic of the hearth. Hers is the magic of the hearth, right? The mending and caring of the hearth, the nourishment of the hearth. So now let's move outside. And again, this is just the first layer I'm sharing. Let's move outside to the rose bushes that grow in front of their home temple, their sacred abode. The rose bushes, again, these are the bridges, the chalices, roots into the earth, growing up to the celestial realms, nourishment of all the elements, made of all the elements, white and red, the union of the white and red. Where do we hear this also? And other lore, myth, legend, truth? Avalon is one place I go. There are many, many, many other. We think of the blood in the body. We think of the sacred seeds and the sacred wombic spaces, the sacred blood, the womb, the seeds, the eggs, the creation when they come together, right? Of birth, of creation, of new. These sisters never went apart. They're union. They hold hands. On our hands we have chakras as well, gateways, portals. These portals are merged, so they're merged in union, always wanting to be together. So what is this showing us? always wanting to be together, merging those inner, the white and the red, the masculine, the feminine, the yin and yang, the blood, the seed, the egg, merging them together to create. It's life force as well, right? The seed, the blood, the life force within, keeping them merged in union, harmony, working together, merging the mundane with the sacred mundane with the otherworldly magic together. Earth, cosmos, right? Heavens merged together. And through the hands, hands are healing. Hands touch, they feel, they weave. They soothe, they nourish. They can do many things, but, right? Okay. We can also see through our hands. The widow, a lone woman, she can represent the celestial mother, the earth mother, with these two daughters. I meant to also share in the story, they go out together to pick red berries. And this is where the three animals meet them. 3. Okay, so the red berries. What does red berries mean to you? I think of the hawthorn berries, the fay berries of the hawthorn tree, which is a fairy tree, and the hawthorn berries are berries of the heart connection. Because when we intake hawthorn tea, it not only works on our broken heart, our wounded heart in that way, the energetics of it, but it also physically, right? So I think of hawthorn berries. What do you think of when you think of red berries? That they pick them. They're receiving these magical berries from the earth that are of the earth and of the celestial heavens. Okay, then 3 animals, 3, the number 3, right? Maiden, mother, crone. For this layer, I'll say that, maiden, mother, crone. Earth, sky, waters. That's very Celtic. But we have the 3 hare, which is a rabbit, but a bigger version and a slightly different type of rabbit. But the hare is eating from their hands. The hands that we talked about, the hands that they hold, the hands that pick the berries. See how the hands are involved with us. Hands. Nourishment. Picking the berries, nourishment. Holding hands, nourishment. Feeding the hare, nourishment. They're nourishing each other. They're nourishing themselves with the berries. And they're nourishing another, the animal realm. Okay? The hare represents the moon, fertility, Ellen of the Ways, Bridget, the fairy queen. So many things I could relate to. The moon cycle, 28 days. The wombic space. All right, I'll leave that for now. Then we have the roe, the gentle roe, the deer, the female, the quiet approach, the listening abilities, as well as the hare, the listening abilities, the grazing of nourishment, the grazing of the offerings of the earth, grazing near the union, the swiftness of a roe, the ability to move in and out of the shadows and the sunlight. Okay. The stag, let's move to the stag. The stag following the union. Union first, then the stag follows. The stag, the antlered king, the antlered one, the wild masculine, the masculine, the wild horned masculine of this time of year that speaks the animal language, the animal tongue, the light language of the animals, that moves with instinct, that moves in and out of the worlds, that lives in the other worlds. King Arthur. The stag is so magical. Its antlers, antenna reaching to the starry above, while its hooves move upon the earth, feeling her heartbeat. Again, union of the stag, but in the masculine form, moving throughout the world. Okay, so I will leave you here today with this, and then we will move on to part 2, maybe in a few days, maybe in a week. I'd love to hear what rises for you. I invite you to dream with this, an element that stood out to you, to dream with it, to dream with one of the animals, to dream with Snow White or Rose Red or the cottage or the forest or the berries or your hands. My heart bow to you in love. Thank you for listening. I would love to hear from you. Many blessings of union and harmony.